Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one.
Yeah. Man.
I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
All right, welcome to episode 509 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that covers the sporting HBCU diaspora, i.e. all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic program and the business of HBCU sports. Obviously, I am not Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. I am Brandon King. I'm sitting in the big podium today, and I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Mo Carter with us. We're filming from our home studio, sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode is sponsored by the THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and athletics. Today's show is going to be a great one. We'll be discussing the latest in HBCU news. How you doing today, Mo?
And I'm doing well, Brandon. Good to see you in the hosting aspects. And as you mentioned, it does feel a little weird since the mainstays aren't around, but we know they're out there handling business. And hopefully at the end of the lecture, we'll get a passing grade.
I hope so. Look, I hope I don't get called into the dean's office after class today. But let's go ahead and get right into it. For those of you who don't know, SWAC baseball is coming live on the SWAC Digital Network May the 22nd through the 25th. The 2024 SWAC baseball tournament will be played in a double elimination format with the SWAC Digital Network action set to start at 9 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, May the 22nd, with games broadcast slated to run through Saturday, May the 25th at Rush Chandler Stadium in Atlanta. I'm actually mostly a basketball guy, and I'll say this, Mo. I actually paid a lot of attention to the SWAC baseball tournament last year, and I'm a fan for life. It was great baseball from game one of day one all the way up until the championship game. It was very exciting. And the thing that I found was a lot of the strategy that some people think is missing at the major league level. I mean, it's there. All the intricacies, of shifting an infield, pinching a hitter, or bringing in, just things like bunts and all of those things about baseball that we grew up learning and playing. I mean, it was just fantastic. So if you have not checked out any SWAC baseball this season, what have you been doing? But this is a great chance to tune in, and I guarantee you will not regret it.
No, Brandon, you're absolutely right, man. The SWAC baseball tournament year in and year out usually serves up some of the best games within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. A big reason for that is that we get a lot of crossover matchups that you never really see series-wise throughout the entire season. You know, the regular season for the SWAC, when it comes to conference matchups, usually kind of becomes more divisional with maybe a crossover here or there. But when you get to the tourney, you get like some very, very potent matchups of some teams that have not seen each other, at least on the diamond. When it comes to the action, as you mentioned, last year, the move to Atlanta was questioned by many, but I think a lot of people were very satisfied as far as the action that was happening and also the hospitality that the ATL has served up. And of course, you know, the baseball tournament itself has had some pretty good spots over the last few years. Of course, it was in Birmingham at Regis Park. You know, home of the Birmingham Barons. Right after the pandemic, it was held right here in the Huntsville area at Toyota Field, which is home of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And it's been in Wesley Barrow in New Orleans for a number of years. But as far as this upcoming year, I'm looking forward to seeing what the matchups will look like for the SWAC baseball tournament. Of course, you still kind of have some late season runs being made by some teams. So positioning will be very, very key. That's why the series that we had going on for this upcoming weekend, including some that began today, will be very pivotal for some of these seedings. Maybe not so much for the top, but after that, the rest of the way it fills out.
Absolutely. And as we kind of move into that, closing out the season and getting ready to head into tournament play, are there any teams or matchups that you're looking forward to?
I mean, as far as the entire slate of things, and I'm gonna go ahead and use Google as my friend right now and pull these standings up or whatever, because I don't want to say anything that is wrong. Of course, you know, in the East Division, the Florida teams, Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman, I mean, they're only separated by about a game and a half. You know, with literally, you know, the final series and stuff coming up. So clearly the Sunshine State wants to see one of these teams shine brightly through the end of the regular season and rolling into it. Alabama State is another team, perennial power that's usually in that first or second slot or whatever. I saw them a few weeks ago up here against Alabama A&M and crank out a whole lot of runs. They've got the possibility to do it. On the, you know, western side of things, it's kind of still a tight race between Texas Southern, Grambling, Prairie View, and even Southern. I mean, those teams are all separated by about maybe 3 or 4 games. So when you have those crossover battles between the East and the West, I'm telling you, you could have some feelings that are being hurt by some squads, and you might have to see a few teams that may be considered favorites play out of the losers bracket coming up. So we'll definitely see how it all plays out as you see the tournament bracket right there. And, of course, you know, if your team did not make it to Atlanta in the upcoming weeks, but you're still an HBCU supporter, head out to the ATL to go ahead and, you know, just check out some pretty good baseball action. Got some good rapport from a lot of the coaches that I got a chance to speak with over the years from the baseball side of things. They kind of enjoyed it out there, too. So it'll be very, very interesting and entertaining. But remember, you know, FAM and Bethune-Cookman, those are still the new kids on the block, and they're really, really trying to make a name for themselves in all sports. And baseball looks like it can be one that it can make a name for in the upcoming weeks.
Absolutely, because I remember watching them battle it out in the latter rounds of the tournament, and it was some really good games. Like I said, it came down to the wire, teams making runs, battling back and forth. So I definitely agree. It's going to be some great baseball, not only in tournament, but like I said, there's still some matchups heading into that tournament that some things still need to be settled in terms of seeding and who's going to be where and what. So we've got a lot of great baseball left to be played. Kind of shifting gears, we're going to talk about the round ball here. Ebony Tanner has been named the interim head coach at Elizabeth City State University. She's got over 15 years in the collegiate ranks. She joined ECU after serving for 3 years at St. Augustine's University, where she led the Falcons to their best conference record since 2012 and their best overall record since 2011, while helping them rank amongst the top 25 teams in forced turnovers. She's also been an assistant coach for 7 seasons at her alma mater, the University of Richmond, from 2009 to 2016. She's had multiple stints with Shaw and the University of Hartford as both assistant and associate head coach. While at Richmond, she reached the women's NIT 4 out of 7 seasons and posted multiple 20-win seasons, including 24-10 record, which was their most wins since 2009. And she's had a successful coaching career with achievements winning a CIAA championship and a bid to the Division II tournament while at Shaw. James DeBose, I want to finish with this quote, expressed excitements about Tanner's appointment, saying we are elated to have Coach Tanner join our team, and we're looking forward to partnering with her as we can to continue to showcase our women's basketball program. Obviously, she's replacing a very successful coach as she moves on to accept another position. What do you think about this move to making her the interim coach? Because I have some thoughts on that, but what do you think about them, the Vikings bringing on this Tanner as the interim coach?
Well, at first, I'll say this. Coach Tanner is walking into a very good situation. You're talking about a team that went 20-11 last year overall, which is very, very good on the women's basketball standings. 20 wins anywhere really on the collegiate basketball ranks is always solid. So it's not like she's walking to a place where the cupboard is bare. Now, naming her the interim coach from the start, yeah, I think everybody has their different philosophies as far as management-wise, if you're an AD or whatever. Me personally, I would have just went ahead and just gave her the regular role of head coach, but everybody kind of, thinks and parlays a little differerently in aspects like we see right there. But at the same time, as I mentioned, she's walking to a situation that is really, really good. She had this team won 20 games last year. And then on top of that, Coach Tanner has a lot of great experience, almost 2 decades worth of solid experience out there along, the East Coast. I think what she'll bring to the CIAA will be, pretty solid just in general. And of course, you got some hard hitters out there in that conference. So with that being said, I think she can use her veteran leadership to coach these young ladies to the next level and, continue to get some victories down there in that conference. And of course, score some very, very important wins in a very, very tough conference, especially a conference that has a tournament like the CIAA does in that standpoint. So of course, we want to wish her the best of luck moving forward as the interim head coach of Elizabeth City State, and hopefully, they can drop that interim one day if she does well. But once again, I'm only speaking on what I see. I don't know what the ABCs are when it comes to the athletic director and their hiring process, but I have seen this before. You hire someone, put an interim on the front portion of it for some time, and then they do well, and they get interim drop. So maybe that's the process they're going with it. But in the meantime, hey, Coach Ebony knows that she's the head coach. She's the leader of the Vikings women's squad, and she's got to recruit and win games over there on that campus.
Absolutely. And I think like I said, when you look at Coach Tanner, obviously she's got experience within the conference, having spent time at Shaw. She's been at other places and she's got a track record of winning. So it's not like she's familiar with not only the recruiting landscape of the CIAA, but throughout that particular part of the country, which will only help her as she engages into those recruiting battles. Hopefully, like I said, the players, they don't look at that interim as a deterrent because they're thinking, well, are you going to be here or whatever the case may be. But I think overall it's a solid hire. And like I said, hopefully that interim tag can go well, because as we have seen in recent years, as you look back at the past couple of years of that Elizabeth City State program, they are on the ascension. They're going in the right direction. So, and as you touched on earlier, it's not like she's coming into a situation where the cupboard is bare.
Correct.
She's in a situation to where she can actually look to even take the program to another level. So we are going to take our first break of the evening, and we'll be back on the other side in 2 and 2.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
All right, and we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back on the other side. This is episode 509 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. And we've got a very special guest with us, none other than the head coach of the historic, trailblazing Fisk University gymnastics team, Coach Corrinne Tarver. Coach Tarver, thank you for spending a few moments with us. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Like I said, I know you're a very busy lady, so I just want to get right into it. For those of you all who don't know, Coach Tarver is the head coach of the Fisk gymnastics team. And I guess what I want to start with is, obviously, with the program is still in its infancy as you've come out, and you've actually been rather successful, even as your program has been in its infancy. When you've mapped this out, year 1, year 2 of your plan, based on where things are right now, are you on track to where you thought you might be, ahead of schedule, or how do you assess the state of the program as it currently stands?
I think we're pretty much right where I expected us to be. I expect a little bit more when it came to some of our team scores, but it's like you said, it's a very young program. Most of our athletes are very new to college gymnastics, so it's we're having our growing pains, but I think overall we're doing pretty good.
Mo, I don't want to take it. Mo, you can jump in if you got a question for Coach.
Hey, Coach Tarver, good to see you. We've never met before, but I do have some folks in the gymnastics world who know you. Like, for instance, good friend of mine is Ashley Claire Carney, formerly of LSU, and your name was dropped several years ago when we were just chatting it up or whatever. But first of all, congratulations on what you're doing up there in the Nashville area at Fisk. But I always love to ask former athletes who are now coaches this question. What are some of the things that you've taken from being a former athlete that has worked well with coaching this, I guess you could say, new school version of athletes nowadays with the NCAA?
Honestly, I'm still learning that one because, like you said, they're a very different breed. But I think I bring a lot of kind of been there, done that. So it's an understanding of what they're going through. They have it a lot different being at an HBCU versus a PWI, but just the whole concept of college gymnastics, competing every weekend, having to go from being an individual and only worrying about yourself to a focus of the team, and what you do is for the team, and that's very different in an individual sport like gymnastics. So I do believe that what I bring is what experience that I had as an athlete and also coaching at PWI. So it's kind of been all over the place, but I think it's a good thing.
So coaching at PWI is clearly, we've still seen how big that is or whatever. I mean, you can watch SEC Network every Friday and see what they're doing with that. But of course, gymnastics at HBCUs is something new. Yes. And I would love to know, what did the faculty and staff and student body like? What did they like about this newness that was brought to the forefront? And how much have they supported it in these infancy years?
We've gotten a tremendous amount of support. The alumni has been absolutely amazing. I went to an alumni event a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about gymnastics, and I was talking about some of the areas that we were looking to compete in. And the alumni from the area were like, let us know the date. Let us know when you're going to be there. We're going to start planning now. So we've gotten great receptions. And it's not just alumni from Fisk. We've gone to meets, and it doesn't matter what HBCU people went to. They were there just because there's an HBCU gymnastics team. And that's just something that, many of us never thought we'd ever see in our lifetime. So to see that and to be able to be a part of it, so many alumni come out and they bring their kids and their grandchildren because they want them to see. They want them to be a part of history. So it's exciting. The campus has been great. The faculty has been great. I do believe it's bringing excitement back to Fisk. Not that Fisk was not exciting before, but I think it was a little stagnant maybe because things had kind of there hadn't been any newness, I guess, other than the Jubilee Singers, which are always amazing. So, and the academics is always amazing. But as far as something that would kind of be a wow factor, I think gymnastics kind of brought in that little bit of extra spark to give that wow factor.
Cool. Coach, a lot of people not know, but you are actually an historic athlete in that you were the first Black gymnast to win the all-around. Now, with that in mind, obviously you have a history of breaking new grounds and things of that nature. Taking the approach of your experiences in terms of kicking down those doors and being first in many areas, how have you been able to translate your experience in that area into your program, which is doing a lot of the same things in their own way in terms of the competition and literally every time they step onto the mat?
Well, honestly, it comes from within them. The pride, the intent, the drive to not just be on the floor, but to be excellent. So we're always striving for that as a team, as each person that's a member of this team. As far as my experiences, for me, I mean, I always had that goal of winning an NCAA title. So it wasn't an overriding goal. It wasn't like that was, I felt like if I didn't do it, I failed in some way, shape, or form. It was more of this is something I knew that I could do. So I just needed to put in the work and put in the time to put myself in a position to actually achieve it. And I think that that's what I'm trying to get this team to understand, that, you can do this. You can get the big scores. You can compete on the floor with the top teams and be successful. So you just have to figure out how to put in the work and the time and the effort so that you put yourself in the best position to be successful.
And we've obviously seen that with you sending 5 athletes to nationals this year, which brings me to kind of the standpoint of recruiting, and obviously seeing what the team has done in its short lifespan is impressive. But when you get I don't want to shortchange any of your other fine athletes, but when you get a Morgan Price in the building, who's a blue chip type athlete. What does that not only say about what you are already building and what you have to offer as a program, that already off the bat you are able to bring in that caliber of athlete at this early juncture in your program?
What it says is that it's been too long since a team's been added. I mean, there have been so many, black and brown gymnasts that have come through the collegiate ranks who would have gone to an HBCU had they had an opportunity. And so for many of these girls, they wanted to go to an HBCU. Some of them have family members who have gone, and that was a legacy within their family, and they thought they would be the one to break that legacy. So for them, it was an opportunity to actually do that dream that they never thought they would do. Sometimes with the transfers we get, especially coming from the PWI, they will tell you that they were the only one on the team, or maybe one of two, that they didn't feel like they fit in or they felt like something was missing. And so they wanted to come to an HBCU to try to get that intangibles that you can't get at a PWI. So I think that that's what we have to offer that obviously others don't, because we don't have all the bells and whistles. We're a small school. And like you said, we're in our infancy. We're just starting out. But, everyone that comes on our team has an opportunity to make history, because everything we do is pretty much the first. So, that's something that's kind of enticing to many of these athletes, that they can be the first to do something, whether it's the first to win a national championship, first to actually be on the floor, first to compete, first to get a 10-0. We're still striving for that first one to get a 10-0. So we'll see who will be the first athlete to do it. We got the 995 this year, so that was a huge, huge accomplishment. So I think that also is exciting, because like you said, they have an opportunity to be the first.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually spoke with Ms. Price a few weeks ago, and she echoed some of those sentiments. I know that she was actually set to go to school with her sister, but she did an about face and decided to come to you all at Fisk. And then I saw, I believe it was a Sports Illustrated article, and it was talking with Ms. Muhammad, and she said something similar, that she went from being, just one of, just like you said a moment ago, to being on a team where everyone looks like her, and what that meant to her. So obviously what you're building down there is already paying off and being impactful for your athletes. I'm gonna let Mo. I don't want to go on.
No, Brandon, you're good. Coach Corrinne, I kind of got to go back off of what I was asking you earlier about the experience thing. Well, clearly you've competed against some very great gymnasts throughout your career. Kind of wondering, has there been an opportunity for you to maybe bring some of your former competitors in to kind of talk to these young ladies? Or, is there likes of, I don't know, like a Dominique Dawes that can just walk through Fisk one day and be like, oh yeah, Corrinne, that's my girl. Let me talk to these young ladies. How are you handling that, if you are doing that?
Actually, Dominique did speak to our team in Maryland when we went to George Washington University. We did get a chance for her to meet with the girls and to have a talk with the team. So, and do some pictures. So that is good. And yes, I love seeing my girl, Dominique. It's awesome. As far as other athletes, I haven't really had that much of an opportunity. So many of them are actually working within the gymnastics community. So, I'm going to look to try to do a little bit more now that we're still trying to figure out this culture here. I tell people all the time that I had a blueprint of how we did it at a PWI, but obviously we don't want to do things exactly the same. So we're doing a little trial and error as far as what we feel is the best way to get the most out of the athletes. So it's been fun. And so we're looking at different things to do, but that's a great idea to start bringing in maybe some more of our former athletes who have been there, done that, and been successful at it, and see if we can get them to inspire our athletes to even greater heights.
Awesome. And look, I've got this question that's kind of been burning in the back of my brain for a while, ever since I saw that you guys had the program, and then there's another program here in the state of Alabama in Talladega. You know, can we work on getting that Fisk versus Talladega dual meet to really happen? I know we had some works on it in the past, but, you know, Mother Nature had some other things going down or whatever with it. Is that something that we're looking forward to seeing in the future, possibly?
Possibly. As of right now, well, there was voted on that hopefully we can make a change. But right now, if we were to compete in a dual meet, the score wouldn't count. So because both of us are NAIA schools. So even though we are within the rankings of the NCAA ranking and stuff, we obviously aren't eligible for an NCAA championships. We still are eligible for championships, just not that particular one. So we haven't really done the dual meet thing, mainly because of that. It's a lot of money to, for teams to travel overnight, that kind of thing, for a score that doesn't count. So we're still figuring some things out. Talladega's done great. Asia, the head coach there, and I, we talk a lot, and there's been a lot of nights where she'll just pick up the phone and, the stress of starting a gymnastics program. And she was similar to me, that I had 4 months. She had about 5 months to put the whole team together. And so it's a lot, it's a lot in general, but the fact that, had such a small amount of time, there were plenty of nights when she picked up the phone and called me, or I'd pick up the phone and call her and say, hey, you're doing great. You're fine. Just keep plugging. You'll be okay. And I don't know, just felt the need to just, call her and tell her that. And she's like, I just needed that today. And there's times when she'll just call me and I'm like, yeah, I needed that tonight. So we're trying to figure this out. We compare notes and, and, try to figure out the best way to do things, but we'll get there. We're getting there.
No, that definitely sounds great. And it's also good to see that both of you, who are in similar positions with starting up programs, are not only there for each other, but you can compare the notes, and then you could kind of be like, oh man, I was thinking that. Oh, I was thinking that too. And then you don't feel like you're the craziest person in the room. You almost feel like you're the smartest person in the room, dually, in that situation.
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm like, am I crazy, or does this sound like something? They're like, yeah, no, that's a good idea, or and things. And like, there are times with her with fundraising or some other things that maybe she's thinking about, or issues she's been having. And, she'll say, hey, do you have this issue on your campus? I'm like, yep. And this is how I dealt with it. So, and it's pretty unique, some of them, to an HBCU. So both of us were at PWI. So we're both kind of, for us, it's the first time being on HBCU campus as well. So we having to learn how things happen, and the fact that homecoming is an entire week instead of a weekend. I thought we thought of homecoming as, the Saturday of a football game, not the entire week. So just little things like that you're like, yeah, you might want to give them the day off because they're going to be doing stuff, or you may have to cut back on what you do that week because of all the festivities that happen. So, we're figuring this out.
So in kind of close, I know that from talking to some of the people from the Coach Sims and down in Talladega, and even from reading up, I know that Brown Girls Do Gymnastics was kind of instrumental with them in Talladega. And in my understanding, that you all worked with them as you all were getting your program off the ground. Are you still doing anything with them in terms of continuing to move the program forward?
No, they were a consultant for the university on, and they were definitely instrumental in helping to give them some of the information and things that they needed in order to, start the program. But, we haven't really had that much interaction since then. We support Brown Girls Do Gymnastics, obviously, because of what it stands for, and the fact that it's bringing the sport of gymnastics to Black and brown young women. So we will always support that that concept and anything that is going to help us to bring more into the sport, and to hopefully keep more of them into the sport, because we get them in, but sometimes we lose them too quickly because of whatever reason. So anything that we can do to help promote Black and brown gymnastics, we are going to do.
Absolutely. And are there any events or related anything that you want to let the people know about?
Well, we're done for the season, so all the girls are at home. The team members, they all are, with jobs or training and such. So right now we're just trying to rest a little bit before we start the new year, but to put everything in place so that when we come in next year, that we're ready to go and hit the ground running. We do have a lot of fundraising we have to do this year. We're realizing that what it is we're trying to get for these girls and the experience we're trying to give them, we cost money. And so we're doing a lot of fundraising. So anything that the viewers, listeners can do to donate to Fisk Gymnastics, we greatly appreciate, because I have a pretty lofty goal of how much I'd like to raise this year. So we're also trying to buy equipment, and that is that's around $130,000 alone just to buy the equipment. So, and that's only one part of the fundraising. We got the other part of just, everyday travel, things of that nature. So, I like to try to do some kind of, whether it's educational or entertainment when we go to different locations, especially if it's like a new place. This year we're going to Chicago. We're also going to be going up to Rutgers. So we'll go up to New York City. And so for many of the women on our team, they've never been to New York. So I want to take them to a Broadway play. So that's something that some of them have never experienced before. So it's something exciting. When we go to Chicago, there's some things that maybe we want to try to do when we go there. So those are things that are not in the budget. So fundraising is where we have to do in order to be able to give them the experiences that they may not be able to get, at least they haven't had up to this point.
Well, thank you, Coach Tarver, for spending a few moments with us. And we'll be back on the other side with more from inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
And we are back. This episode 509 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'm Brandon King, and this is my co-host Mo Carter. We are back And I know normally we don't talk professional wrestling, or as we used to say back home, wrestling. But this story comes to us from HBCU Game Day. WWE Star to main event with Black-owned pro wrestling company. Ashe Wrestling has planted its flag in the world of pro wrestling this year with 3 shows under its belt. Ashe has already hosted some of the biggest names in the industry. Now the Black-owned professional wrestling company out of Charlotte, North Carolina, has announced that former WWE star Shelton Benjamin will be wrestling in the main event of their next show on June the 22nd of 2024. The brainchild of Charlotte native and 10-year professional wrestler Darius Lockhart, Ashe Wrestling was created to revive the culture of pro wrestling in Charlotte and to create a more diverse landscape across the industry. Ashe Wrestling shows have featured appearances from WWE Hall of Famers Mark Henry, Ron Simmons, D'Lo Brown, and Theodore Long. Adding Shelton Benjamin to the main event card is a next level accomplishment for an independent wrestling promotion in its first year. Benjamin, a 20-year pro wrestling veteran from Orangeburg, South Carolina, has been a WWE Tag Team, Intercontinental, United States, and 24/7 champion. He's also known for his work in the developmental territory of Ohio Valley Wrestling, where he held the OVW Southern Tag Team Champions with Brock Lesnar. I believe their tag team was called the Minnesota Stretching Crew, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah, because both of them, I remember both of them wrestled in college, so they're both former NCAA athletes as well.
I think that is because I heard it on a couple of different podcasts. Let's see, Sheldon, and I remember when this happened last September the 21st, he was released from his WWE contract, making him one of the biggest free agents in pro wrestling. Benjamin will face Jonathan Gresham in the highly anticipated matchup. Gresham is currently signed to Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. For those of you who don't know, that was formerly Impact Wrestling. Over 15 countries with stints at All Elite Wrestling and ROH, Ring of Honor. I keep forgetting because I know some of these. Let me not just use the acronyms. He's a former Ring of Honor World Champion, and Gresham was also part of Ashe Wrestling's first ever show at the Grady Cole Center in Charlotte, where he suffered a questionable loss to Darius Carter. Wow, what are your thoughts on we're getting into the wrestling business from, as they say, from the office instead of necessarily on the mat?
Well, man, I'll be honest with you, Brandon. I mean, this is a pretty cool story. I got a chance to kind of take a glimpse of it when it came out not too long ago on HBCU Game Day. But, I was a huge wrestling fan growing up. I remember the Monday Night Wars, WCW versus then WWF. I was even a big ECW fan as well with Paul Heyman and company out there inside the ECW arena in Philadelphia. So, I definitely was a fan of it at least well into my high school years, kind of went away a little bit in my college years. But in more recent times, I've kind of, picked it back up just a little bit. I don't really watch too many of the live shows, but, thanks to YouTube and Twitter and things of that nature, you can watch real quick recaps and be up to date or whatever with that. But as far as this Black-owned wrestling company coming through, you think about it, some of the best, wrestlers, popular wise, whatever, have been a lot of African Americans. You mentioned the Ron Simmons, the D'Lo Browns, the Mark Henrys, the Rocky Johnsons, The Rock, Booker T, Stevie Ray. I mean, man, I used to love me some Harlem Heat. It's funny. Harlem Heat became my favorite tag team because of my grandma, man. Like, no lie. I kid you not. We were flipping through the channels. Might have been like 94, 95 or something. WCW Saturday Night was playing on one of the channels. And my grandma was like, hey, leave it on that wrestling right there or whatever and stuff. And then they come out. I think they're getting ready to face the Nasty Boys or Public Enemy, one of the two. And I just remember them coming out or whatever. And my grandma was like, who is them? And I said, well, grandma would say Harlem Heat. He was like, that's about to be your favorite tag team now. Because they do some damage. And sure enough, I think they ended up winning a championship with Sister Sherry back in the day. Rest in peace to her. And that's really how I became a Harlem Heat fan right then and there. But as far as like what Asha Wrestling is doing, I think it's definitely great. And you do see the rise, continued success of African-American wrestlers. So to see Shelton Benjamin, who was also a part of the one half of the world's greatest tag team, still be doing it, 2 decades later, it's definitely something dope. Now, I will admit, the one thing I didn't like about him was when he had that Cisco gold hair back in the day. But somehow, some way, I guess he made it work or whatever, and the folks didn't get rid of him just because of that. Dude's a talented wrestler, and to say that, he's back in the fold to be part of this will definitely be good, and they'll bring some eyeballs with it too.
Absolutely. Because even like I said, with him being in the business for as long as he has been, he is still, I think, one of the best workers in the business. And hopefully the guys who were there, they will take advantage of his presence there to pick his brain and get some of the ins and outs of in and outside of the ring, because like I said, he's a true professional. And for Ashe to get him in the fold, that is huge, because you've got somebody whose main event been a main card or top level guy in several different organizations all over the country and wrestled all over the world. So that is a huge get, and like I said, it's going to draw a lot of interest. I, for one, will be looking into it to kind of see how it's going to do. So kudos to Darius Carter and everybody at Ashe Wrestling for that huge get. And look, one of the big companies might come sniffing back around if it goes a little too well.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. The professional world is all about relationships. And for a guy like Shelton Benjamin, who's very, very close with the likes of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, who now practically run, WWE, which is crazy. Because if you think about it, remember in the late 90s when D-Generation X said, we're taking over the wrestling world. And now the main two guys from D-Generation X are actually running WWE and NXT as well. Like, how crazy is that many years later that it really came true? And let's throw The Rock in there too, since, he has a big portion of what happens now into that. So, 3 of the biggest superstars in the late 90s and 2000s now run everything. And there's really not a McMahon at the top of the game anymore or whatever, even though the game is married to Stephanie, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I saw something after they sold it to TKO for a lot of money.
For real.
A boatload of money. I think they said it was because Vince McMahon is actually selling his remaining stakes in the company. And once that's done, it will be the first time it was either 53 or 75 years that a McMahon has had nothing to do in terms of WWF for the wrestling business. So from that standpoint, it's really the end of an era.
Very much so. Really into multiple eras if you think about it, because according the history of my head right now, I know that the Vince McMahon that we know, purchased majority of the rights from his dad, Vince McMahon, who had been running things for a long, long time. But, back what it was then is nowhere close to what it is now because of, Vince McMahon that we know of, bringing the light to all the different territories and really putting them under one microscope and then being like, oh, man, we can use these territories as our breeding ground to train all these folks. And then once we get that out the way, then we can bring all the talent up or whatever. That's why, a wrestling promotion like Mid-South in Memphis and various parts of the South like New Orleans and Mississippi or whatever, they were great breeding grounds for bringing up all sorts of talent. I mean, you think about the Junkyard Dog, you think about Hacksaw Jim Duggan, even, The Rock, who was known as Flex Cabana or something crazy back then or whatever. If you actually go and watch his sitcom that he had on NBC, Young Rock, talks about his times or whatever through various times. But, Jerry the King Lawler was one of the guys that were running that territory and You know, we know Jerry King had been having his hands on it for a long time. So it was like, hey, I got somebody here. Let's work him out, and then let's push him on up. And that's exactly what happened. But, yeah, definitely an end of multiple eras or whatever, with the fact that, hey, McMahon won't be truly running it. And depending on how you kind of look at your perspective of things, yeah, we know Triple H is married to Stephanie or whatever. But, yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
And you brought up Mid-South. I'm holding myself back from not turning this into a wrestling podcast, because we talk about Mid-South, then we have to talk about the AWA and all that stuff. So we're going to take our last break of the show, and then we're going to come back in 1 and 1.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
And we're back, episode 509 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I am Brandon King, this is Mo Carter. And as we move into the latter part of the show, there's a couple of smaller topics that I wanted to kind of just get into really quick. One is kind of, I'm not going to be a true homer, but Tennessee State is getting a facelift for Hale Stadium. And it was reported on both by HBCUsports.com and the Tennessean. After a long last, they're going to be renovating. They're going to redo the press box. And for those of you who don't know, the press box was condemned 2 years ago. So they're actually, what's going to happen is they're going to tear that down. They're going to put down an artificial turf. They're going to expand the field to make it suitable for a soccer pitch as well as a football field. And they're going to be just making it a lot nicer. They plan on playing some games there once everything is done. Right now, well, prior to this, it's been used as a practice field, and from what I've been told is if it doesn't get done by the time fall practice rolls around, they're going to have to have practices in the indoor facility. Or for those of you who are not familiar with the beautiful campus of Tennessee State University, there is a hill located not too far from Hale Stadium where they're going to be, well, they may have to practice there, but for those who are familiar, it's long past due, and it's nice to see that they're giving this historic venue a facelift, and it looks like that at least in some aspect, football on a more consistent basis is going to be coming back to the whole.
So, Brandon, I do have a question about that because, I mean, clearly I know that they have not played, games at Hale in a number of years. I want to say the pandemic year might have been the last year they've had like a full slate of it. So clearly the upgrades are good or whatever. They'll get soccer and stuff, but like, do you know if it'll be a permanent for football, or how will that work with the new Tennessee Titans Stadium coming up and Eddie George's relationship between his current job and his former job?
So back in '99, they signed a 30-year lease to share Nissan Stadium with the Titans. So, and there's a new stadium coming, and as far as I know, they're going to play games in the new stadium as well. There will be some, that will be played there. The last game that they played there, I didn't mean to put that in my hand, was the 2022. I think it was the John Merritt Classic when they played Lane. They lost, but that was the last game that was played there. So everything else has been back to Nissan, but I think there's going to be kind of like similar to what was done in like 2012 where they played a handful of games. So it'll probably be a situation where they'll play a few games here and there as far as they can get around whatever contractual obligations they have to play in as currently as Nissan Field or Nissan Stadium. So it won't be a full conversion yet.
Gotcha.
So I'm excited about that. That's good that they're kind of moving in that direction, and I think it'll be good for the Nashville, the Tennessee State community as a whole. So to get out there, I had to be a tiny bit of a homer.
Nah, totally understand, man. Totally understand. I mean, like I said, I think it's big news or whatever. And considering the fact that, Tennessee State has kind of been back and forth between Hale and Nissan. And, anytime you get on-campus upgrades, that is always something like to stick your chest out about and be proud about, because that means that they're looking into not only improving what's going on right there, but also you work for the future with that as well, because improvements, what do? They give you new life, and then they open eyes up for potential future recruits as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect example. This very big arena that Alabama A&M has now built on its campus, the Event Center. I'm pretty sure they've got several athletes, especially for basketball, who have been like, wow, look at this thing. Yeah, I'm definitely coming here just because of what it looks like inside, what the training room looks like, what the players' lounge looks like. And I'm pretty sure students are like saying the same thing when they come on their, just on their academic recruiting trips. And they're like, man, like, wow, this is great. Like, look at this atmosphere. So, yeah, new things always help out for the future.
And it's my understanding the Event Center down there is a beautiful facility. I have not had the pleasure of seeing it in person, but from what I have heard, it is mighty nice down there.
Absolutely. And the other best thing about it for Alabama A&M is that, like, it's on their campus. It is owned by them. And because of that, they can host their own graduations in there. They don't have to worry about the city of Huntsville working out a schedule for the Von Braun Center. So they can host things like that. They can host concerts, whether it's local concerts, homecoming concerts, whatever it may be. They can literally host those there. I remember Maxwell had a concert on the campus of Alabama A&M, and Alabama A&M was the host of it. You still had to go through Ticketmaster and all that, but the fact that, hey, it was a Maxwell concert on the campus of Alabama A&M inside the Event Center, and you kept majority of that revenue. And then they have the staffing to actually do it too. So I think that is, totally great in that situation. So yeah, anytime you upgrade, it always helps, not only for the present, but for the future.
Absolutely. And kind of one of the last topics that I wanted to get into, because as we know, as the playoffs are going on and the NBA Combine, because of Bronny James, is on a lot of people's mind. In all the years that I have watched basketball, I have never heard the words NBA Combine bantied about this much among basketball media, among sports media. But with that being said, out of all the invitees, and I saw the list, I want to say it was like 44. Once again, there were no HBCU players invited to the Combine. I know it wasn't any last year. So as looking around the HBCU basketball landscape, and so I know you're kind of knee deep in SWAC country there. Do you think is it just the case of the players not getting the note or the shine? Because like I watched the HBCU All-Star game, and it's a lot of brothers that can go, and And when you see a guy, no matter what the level, when you see a guy who's a pro, you know he's a pro. So do you think it's that they're just not paying attention? Is it still the stigma, right, wrong, or indifferent of the HBCU athlete not getting his credit, and they're overlooking us? Or what do you think it is?
Well, I tell people this all the time because I have this conversation probably like 3, 4, 5 times a week or whatever at times and whatnot. Of course, not only knee deep in SWAC country, I'm also knee deep in SEC country as well, working in local television. Honestly, for the HBCU side of things, I don't think it's more so of an overlooked ordeal. Because don't get me wrong, there are some HBCU players who can definitely ball out, like you mentioned, the ones that played in the HBCU All-Star game. But I mean, lots of times I think it could be from the competition factor. A number of teams in the SWAC and a number of teams in the MEAC, they're forced to play what many people don't realize are money games. You see it in football, whatever, but it happens more often in basketball. And lots of times, unless you're really on your P's and Q's or whatever, the results don't really work out too often. I mean, Southern beat a top 25 ranked Mississippi State this past year, which was really, really good. But for that win, I mean, I remember Alabama A&M in the last, year or two having to play Ohio State and having to play Georgia, and those results, they weren't good. So as far as the NBA scouts or whatever, I never say that they overlook, the HBCU talent, because I feel like this. A recruiter and a person that works for a team, like they know where they need to go or whatever. They know where they need to find it. It's just a matter of, what's the best fit for it. And I hate to say it because we live now in the world of not only the one and dones, but we now live in the NIL era. We've seen probably some of the better HBCU talent stay about 2 years in the SWAC or the MEAC or the independent leagues, with A&T and Hampton, and then they're heading over to a higher mid-major, or maybe, the P5 versions probably P4 versions on the college basketball level or whatever, because now they've shown their worth, and then boom, all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we want your water. And it's not just here in the HBCU realm. I mean, there are some folks I've seen in the very, very, very small basketball realms, like literally just make these jumps that have just become not so much head scratchers, but it becomes uncanny. I'll give you a perfect example right now. And I need to use Google real quick. But, here we go. So here in Huntsville, Chaney Johnson was a Division II All-American at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Guy 6'9", he can play that stretch forward or whatever. Coming out of high school, he was only about 6'4" or whatever, playing the guard. All of a sudden, dude blows up to like 6'8", 6'9", balls out for 2 years. All of a sudden, keep in mind, this is Division II, and Alabama Huntsville is a great program or whatever. All of a sudden, guy hits a transfer portal. Next thing you know, dude is on the Auburn men's basketball team as a starter with Bruce Pearl and company. So he went from a legit D2 program to an SEC program that was, so many years removed from winning the SEC regular season title and having multiple guys being selected as lottery picks. So it's not just happening in HBC. You're seeing a lot of other guys from the lower ranks, kind of develop themselves and hit the transfer portal. So I think that's kind of really where we live at right now as far as the era of basketball. And I'm just hoping that one day we really are going to get that superstar HBCU player that'll play there whatever years throughout, and then get that invite to the combine, and then we see them in the NBA, doing well, or at least make their way to the G League and then play your way to get onto an NBA spot. We've seen that happen multiple times as well.
That is true. I just from watching, and like I said, you see guys that have game, but like I said, for a variety of reasons, and the NIL, and that has really come in and really in some cases allowed some of these bigger schools to come in and poach some of the talent, for lack of a better word. I've heard coaches, HBCU coaches, talk about that, that situation to where said you'll find a guy, just like you were talking about, that maybe wasn't getting necessarily the attention from larger programs, and you bring him in, you develop him, And then once, you know, he's playing basketball, he's playing well, all of a sudden he's getting the hey big head messages from some of the big programs. And then the next thing you know, he's in the portal and he's gone. So just wanted to talk about that. So that's going to wrap up episode 509 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Again, I am Brandon King. This is Mo Carter. And as we always like to close with, Mo.
Course.
Roy.
Lecture.
Oh, dismiss. My bad. Yeah, I was waiting for you, Brandon.